Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Strategic Planning Committee here in the Council Chamber on Tuesday, the 2nd of December. Apologies for absence. Have we had any apologies?
No, Chair, everybody is present.
Everybody's excellent, excellent. So we've got the minutes of our previous meeting held on Tuesday, the 7th of October. Are members happy to accept these minutes as true record? Excellent. Disclosures of members' interests. Any members got any interest they wish to disclose? No? So we then move on to, thank you, Councillor Stewart. So we then go on to determination of planning applications. We've only got one application before us today, and that's a reserved matters application. It's a reserved matters application dealing with access, layout, scale and appearance, landscaping, pursuant to the original planning application for 2 data centre buildings, including ancillary office space, security gatehouse and associated landscaping and infrastructure on phase 1 of the data centre campus. And obviously the site is the land on the former power station site north of Camas in Northumberland. So ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say today we did have a very good site visit today. 9 members in attendance, 2 officers. And, you know, I really feel for the new members, it was very beneficial, but also for the old members as well. You know, a site meeting really helps you to understand how these buildings are going to fit into the landscape. And, you know, with this particular application, these data centres are huge buildings. So, you know, we as planning members have got to make sure that, you know, we've crossed the T's, dotted the I's, and done everything we can to ensure that, you know, a good build takes place, but at the same time, you know, we've taken every precaution to assist the neighbours to make sure they're not going to suffer duly from noise, dust, dirt, that sort of thing. But I really feel today it was an excellent visit, and, you know, give my thanks to QTS for hosting the meeting on site today. And the only other thing I just want to mention, ladies and gentlemen, is that, you know, I know it is quite difficult for some of the new members because this is an application that was decided by the previous Strategic Planning Committee. And, you know, as such, a lot of the issues that pertain to this planning application have already been decided, you know, and I think of things like public protection, the safety of all those generators on site and biodiversity questions. But really, you know, today we're just dealing with reserved matters for the first 2 data centres, the first, well, phase 1 of this current application. So without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to hand over to Tamsin Wood, our planning officer, who is going to give us some updates on this. And, you know, what I should have done too was I should have briefly gone through procedure. So when we deal with the planning application, I, as chair, introduce that application. I ask if you've seen any site videos. Well, today we've actually been on a site visit ourselves, so those members that came along were very well informed. I then ask the planning officer to give us any updates, to present her report. We then have public speaking, 5 minutes for an objector, 5 minutes for a local councillor, parish councillor, county councillor, and then 5 minutes for an objector. We then have a session for members to ask questions of our planning officers, and then we go through the application itself, actually debate the application, ask for a proposal, ask for a seconder, and then carry out the debate itself. So, ladies and gentlemen, Tamsin, would you like to give us any updates and present your report today? Over to you.
Thank you, Chair. So I have a few updates to go over with you, first of all. So the first one is condition 1. I would like to amend this by removing the first 2 points of that. So that's the covering letter dated the 3rd of the 11th, 25, and also where it's listed, Reserved Matters Application Phase 1 Transport Statement Document 3.2 Rev 00. Ask Matthew. Can you delete that, please? And also the Phase 1 Drainage Details Sheet 3, dated the 14th of the 8th, 25, as that's already listed further down. So the second update is to amend the first part of Condition 2 to read, prior to any development of the data centres above ground floor level, a further detailed landscaping scheme showing both hard and soft landscaping proposals for the remaining area that falls within the Phase 1 boundary and out with the purple boundary shown on the landscape master plan reference, and also out with the SSER area identified on the land use parameter plan Rev PO2. Then the rest of the condition remains unchanged. The third update is to remove condition 7 as it's already on the outline permission. The fourth one is to delete condition 11 is the plan showing a 3-metre link between the proposed cycle shelters on the enlarged parking details plan has now been submitted and approved by Highways. Therefore, I would also like to amend the enlarged parking plans reference in condition 1 by adding uploaded the 1st of December 2025 to the end of the plan reference. The fifth update is I'd like to add a new condition 2 requiring details of the hostile vehicle mitigation to be submitted to and approved in writing and constructed prior to occupation of the data centres. And then the sixth one is I would also like to add a further landscape condition which will read, within 6 months of the approval of the reserved matters application associated with outline permission reference 23/04110/out, which includes details of the final layout of the cable route, a further detailed landscaping scheme for land within the SSER area identified on the land use parameter plan Rev PO2 shall be submitted to and approved in writing by the local planning authority in consultation with Berwick Bank Wind Farm Limited. This will include the planting of trees and shrubs, including the planting schedule, setting out species, number, size, type of stock, location and densities, areas to be proceeded with grass and other works or proposals for improving the appearance of the development and for providing a visual buffer. The scheme shall also be in line with the landscape strategy approved under 24/04112 OUTES. The landscape scheme shall then be completed in accordance with the approved details not later than the expiry of the next planting season, following the laying of the cables and reinstatement of pre-existing ground levels or within such other time as may be approved with the local planning authority. The landscaped areas shall be subsequently maintained to ensure establishment of the approved scheme, including watering, weeding and the replacement of any plants or areas of seeding or turfing comprised in the approved landscape plans, which fail within a period up to 5 years from the completion of the development. So, moving on to the presentation now.
Thank you.
Okay. So I'm just going to touch on the history of the site first of all. So earlier this year, outline plan and permission with all matters reserved was granted for the erection of up to 10 data centre buildings and ancillary structures, including a substation and other associated works. Under that application, the principle of the development was therefore established, so we have already agreed that they can definitely build the 10 data centres with all those ancillary works on the site. There was a section 106 attached to that original permission too, which secured a financial contribution of £40,000 towards works to increase the size of the wader mitigation site to mitigate the loss of breeding habitat on the site, and an education, employment and training plan to cover both the construction and operation phase and local supply strategy, and also obliged the applicants to enter into a supplementary deeds at reserve matter stages to secure the habitat creation on the site to achieve in whole or in part the statutory biodiversity net gain requirement for the development. So at that time too, other impacts were also assessed and found to be acceptable. Some were found to be acceptable subject to conditions to secure further details to be submitted. Such impacts that were assessed at that outline stage included impact on flood risk, impact on ecology, biodiversity net gain, highways impact, the impact of the proposal on climate change, landscape impacts, and the overall height of the development was agreed through the approved parameter plans. The impact on the amenity of nearby residents and those further afield during the construction phase and operation phase was also assessed and by consultees and found to be acceptable subject to conditions. Amongst these included impacts from noise, dust, overshadowing and overbearing impact. In terms of the emergency generators that were also proposed, details of the testing regime were also given at that stage, which is that they will operate at no load for 5 minutes for months 1 to 11 and then at full load for 60 minutes in month 12. And based on this, each generator will only run for approximately 2 hours total per year during testing. And Public Protection had no objection to this, and Condition 69 on the original permission also required details of the testing to be agreed. This means that we could control it. An application under 25/01725 REM was then granted for the details of the first phase of the development, known as the Enabling Works, Phase A. This included the site preparation, earthworks and other works prior to the construction and operation of the data centre campus. So today's application now specifically deals with those details, including appearance, layout, scale, landscaping and access pursuant to that outline plan and permission for the first 2 data centre buildings only, including the ancillary buildings, park and security gatehouse, and associated landscaping and infrastructure. So these details just cover the phase 1 of the data centre campus. This first slide shows the aerial view of the site and the location plan. So the entire site is outlined in red. It's approximately 102.3 hectares in size. It's located directly to the west and south of the village Camas. It lies to the east of the A189 and East Sleekburn and directly north of Brock Lane, which provides access to the site. The site is located approximately 2 kilometres north of Blythe Town Centre. The settlement of Bedlington is located to the west beyond the A189. Nashington is located to the north of the site. So in terms of the site and its surroundings, the site is a former coal stocking yard, which was previously used as part of the former Blythe Power Station, which closed in 2001. So the power station was demolished and the site cleared in 2003. It's now an open, vacant brownfield site with remnants of hard standing scattered around the site and 2 fuel ash mounds located to the east of the site. There's also piles of rubble and clusters of stockpiles across the site. The land is generally open and flat except for the mounds. And there are some trees and scrub across the low-lying ground. Work has, however, started on the enabling works and the site is currently being prepared for the phase 1 development. In terms of the site's immediate surroundings, this is a mixture of commercial, industrial, residential and agricultural land along the eastern boundary, along the railway line. Beyond the railway line is also Calmus Primary School and St Andrew's Church, and beyond this is the beach and North Sea. On the southern side of Brock Lane is the site which contained the main power station building. So the JDR facility is now being developed on this for the manufacturing of subsea cables. Beyond this, into the southeast, is the Port of Blythe, which contains industrial land. The North Sea Link converter station borders the the southern east-western boundary. Into the west are wooded areas, grassland and further industrial commercial premises. So there are 4 access points to the site, 3 along the southern boundary and 1 in the northwest corner of the site. There are 2 public footpaths which run close to the site, and 1 along the eastern boundary and 1 which runs close to the western boundary of the site and through part of the site. So these plans show the overall layout for phase 1. The red line on these plans delineates the boundary of phase 1. So it shows the 2 data centres which are positioned north and south, north to south direction, with the office areas facing south towards the main entrance. The main entrance into the site will be from the southwestern roundabout on Brock Lane. Internal roads will then loop into the site and around the buildings, with parking areas and EV charging bays provided close to the front. A 3-metre wide shared pedestrian and cycle path is also proposed into and around the site along both the main road into the site and from the southeast and the northwest emergency entrances. Cycle shelters and bin stores are also shown to the south of the buildings. The security gate and buildings are proposed to the west of the site and fire compound slightly north of this. So both plans also show that landscaping is integrated throughout the site, including in between the buildings, with grassed areas, tree planting, wildflower meadows and open mosaic habitats and ponds, which are key to achieving biodiversity net gain. The design also includes freedom parks for staff recreation, which will feature seating areas, flagpoles and a statue. It's considered the landscaping proposed will help to soften the hard edges of the development and create a nice leafy setting around the entrance. Additional planting will also be secured by condition to cover those areas not yet shown to have landscaping. So in terms of biodiversity net gain, the applicant will deliver over the entire site a 10% BNG, both on and off-site, through the creation of on-site habitats and the purchase of biodiversity units from a registered habitat bank at Potland Burn. They require a mixture of these to ensure the 10% target is met. The proposed development will also aim to retain as much open mosaic habitat on site before providing any additional biodiversity net gain off-site. So as mentioned earlier, the original under the original planning application, the applicant entered into a section 106, which obliged them to enter into a supplementary deed at reserve matter stage to secure the habitat creation on site to achieve the statutory biodiversity net gain requirement for the development. So the applicant has already bought the right biodiversity units from Potland Burn to account for the losses arising from the site clearance that was permitted under the first reserve matters application. They will need to buy more units later when they submit reserve matters for the areas of the site that outside of that initial clearance area. So as part of this current reserve matters application, the applicant has agreed to enter into a further Section 106 obligation in respect of Phase 1 to secure the habitat creation on the site, which consists of 68.86 area habitat units. So all to be created on the Phase 1 site to achieve, in part, the statutory biodiversity net gain requirement relating to Phase 1 of the development, and to ensure that the site provides a biodiversity net gain to satisfy the regulations. This Section 106 also requires the developer to create the habitat and then manage it for at least 30 years in accordance with a habitat management and monitoring plan to be submitted. So all of the BNG requirements for this phase of the data centre are being met through habitat creation on site as part of the data centre landscaping, and so this phase doesn't require habitats units from Potland Burn. This is just a closer view of the site plan showing the arrangement of the buildings, access roads and landscaping features. It shows how the layout separates secure and non-secure zones. So the guardhouse controls entry into the internal loop road, and on this plan you can see more clearly the proposed security fencing within the site. So there's also existing fencing around the entire site, which is to be maintained and repaired where necessary. So the design ensures efficient movement for vehicles and pedestrians while maintaining security. This slide just shows the details of the fire tank compound. So this will house the sprinkler tank, the pump house and water plant room. So this is essential for fire safety and will be located within the secure perimeter. So this shows the plans and elevations of the guardhouse, which controls access to the site. It will include security systems such as CCTV, biometric checks and barrier control. So all visitors and staff will enter through this point to maintain security. So this plan shows the elevations of the data centres. So there will be 3 stories high with a maximum height of 33.8 metres to accommodate specialist equipment and roof plant, stepping down to 23.9 metres at the front and back. The design uses pale grey cladding with red vertical accents and glazed areas to break up the mass and provide visual interest. The plant equipment is grouped between the buildings to reduce visual impact, and it's also on the roof as well. Here, just some cross sections across the site, showing the relationship between the site and its boundaries and illustrating how the buildings sit within the landscape there. Moving on to some photographs. So this photograph is just showing where the access is on Brock Lane. This is I think this is taken from close to where the roundabout is and looking west along Brock Lane. So this is where the highways works, which were agreed under the original application. This is where the cycle and footpath link will be created. This is a photo showing the south of the site from Brock Lane and looking towards the southeast of the site. This is taken from the southeast of the site and looking towards the site. This is taken from the east of the site, Camas. So that's one of the mounds there in the background. This is taken further away, so that is the school site, so further away from the site to the east, looking across to the site. And these are photographs that were taken within the site. On that second photograph on the right, you can see the JDR towers there. And one of those, the highest tower on the JDR site, reaches, I think, approximately 47 metres in height. And these were just further photographs taken within the site before the start of the enabling works. So this is just the final slide. So to conclude, the principle of the development was established at outline stage. This application provides the detailed design for phase 1. The proposals comply with the approved design code and local plan policies. So subject to conditions under Section 106 agreement securing biodiversity net gain and habitat management for 30 years, the recommendation is to grant planning permission. That's it.
Thank you very much, Tamsin. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we now come to the public speaking section. We haven't got anyone speaking on the objector slot now. No one as a local member, parish councillor or county councillor, but we do have a supporter today we have Andy Lawson from QTS. Andy, you have 5 minutes to give your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Hello, members of the committee. As has been said, I'm Andy Lawson. I'm a pre-development director at QTS for the UK. Excuse me. QTS is the company that is responsible for developing the data centre campus and is a company in the portfolio of Blackstone. Renaissance Land is the applicant and the Blackstone company that owns the Camas site. Since the outline permission was granted for the data centre campus last May, we've been extremely busy. In August, we obtained our first reserve matters approval for enabling works, and those enabling works started in early October, and as has been mentioned, some of the committee saw the progress that has been made on site up till now by a company called Rainton Limited, part of the MGL Group, who are based here in the northeast of England. Members will be aware that we've had several public consultation events in and around Camas this year. We've also delivered 2 editions of our newsletter to around 1,500 homes and businesses this summer and again in the autumn. And we'll continue to uphold our commitment to being a responsible neighbour and keeping all stakeholders informed of progress on site in further newsletters and online. An objective for both QTS and the County Council is to grow the local economy, and for QTS that means making best use of local services and suppliers. We held a Meet the Buyer event in July where we shared details of the scheme with over 30 local businesses. We're excited to continue those conversations, and similar events will be held in the future. Chair, I want to mention the work on social values that is described in one of the documents that we submitted with this application. It speaks to another of QTS's community pillars, supporting local prosperity. We're contributing time, talent and resources to align with the Council's priorities, focusing on value for money, tackling inequalities and driving economic growth. The project has secured a first-of-a-kind approval from the Construction Industry Training Board for a National Skills for Construction Academy, and pre-employment training schemes have been initiated. And we're really pleased to share that the first 2 trainees have been appointed since the start of the enabling works. Members will also be aware that in September, the second AI growth zone was designated by government. I was pleased to be able to contribute and collaborate with the County Council on behalf of the Blackstone QTS team to that growth zone submission made by the County Council and by the combined authority. I attended the round table with the Mayor and the Secretary of State for Science, Innovation and Technology. That discussion and subsequent statements by the government demonstrate and emphasise the importance of the Camas development. Importantly, it recognises the pace of delivery that is critical to the UK PLC, both on the national and international stage. And we continue to meet with the AI Growth Zone Officer team in the Department for Science, Innovation and Technology. And with the support of the County Council Chairman, we will move the project along at pace. The high standards that we committed to in the outline permission are embedded in this scheme, and essentially we are doing what we committed to, and we're just getting started. The proposed scale and layout of the buildings have been guided by the approved design code and parameter plans approved as part of the outline planning permission. The appearance of the buildings complies with the approved architectural design code, and the landscaping of the site has been carefully designed to balance visual appeal and mitigate impact. It offers informal recreational space that has already been mentioned, along with contributions to biodiversity net gain. Your officer's report deals comprehensively with all of the issues, and there are conditions attached to the planning permission that will secure additional details. We'd like to thank your officers and stakeholders who've engaged in the application process and worked with us in a collaborative manner to arrive at the position where the application is recommended for approval. In conclusion, the proposed development offers an exciting opportunity to realise the first phase of buildings. It will continue to enable us to deliver investment and economic growth, together with the opportunities for employment and training that both QTS and this Council have already laid the strong foundations for. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen of the committee, have you any questions you'd like to put to our planning officers today? Councillor Georgina Hill.
Thank you, Chair. And that was a good, detailed, comprehensive report and presentation. My question is, it's not one of these ones where there's this way up of benefit and harm, and if so, I'd be really drilling into the job creation boosts. But I don't think that's relevant. But I am interested in the Section 106. And in simple terms, you look at this, and there's obviously all the fluffy language and used and social benefits and so on, but it's a huge, on a continental world stage, it's a massive project, loads of money. It wouldn't, on the face of it, seem that much, around the habitat and the £11,000. Did I read that they're giving this authority 110 million? Is that completely separate? So could you just talk me a little bit through Section 106? Can we ask for any more? Are we getting 110 million? It's not direct, but it's important background information, I think, because obviously that would see we are getting a good gain. But yeah, that's my question.
Do you want me? Yeah. So the 110 million's got nothing to do with the planning application. I don't really know anything about that 110 million, to be honest. So I've heard a figure, but yes, but
It's not split.
for me, it's
It's the price that QTS paid for the site, so that's payable to NCC, but it isn't really relevant to this application today. But you would want that as background.
So yeah, so we've got the original Section 106 attached to the outline permission. So as part of that, we secured the £40,000 towards work to increase the size of the Wader mitigation site, which is to the north of the site. I think it's to create some link between the site and the north. But that's to help in terms of the ecology, the impact on ecology. And that also included the education, employment and training plan, which was to cover both the construction and the operation phase. So it obliged them to enter into that. So we've had the details of that, which is now being approved. And also they agreed to the local supplier strategy. So that's, I think, where they try and get, use local companies to supply the materials. And also oblige them to enter into supplementary deed at reserve matters stage to secure the habitat creations on the site to achieve in part or in whole the statutory biodiversity net gain requirement for the development. So that was the outline permission. So under the reserved matters, under this reserved matters application, this is just purely to deal with the biodiversity net gain. So it's to secure the biodiversity net gain on the site and also the habitat management plan to ensure they're going to manage it for the next 30 years.
And we couldn't have asked for any more.
So that figure, that 10,000, that 11,000 something, that's just to monitor it. So we need that money to pay. All right, yeah.
It doesn't seem a lot.
That's the.
So, Chair, if I could just come in and all what Tamsin has explained to you is correct in terms of what we sought through the 106 on the outline consent. What is different, and I know that you're thinking that we should be securing all the BNG through the 106, but actually there's new legislation now, and biodiversity net gain is secured through a condition, and for the applicants, QTS on this site, they have bought credits from the Habitat Bank at Potland Burn, and that is at a significant cost and a significant benefit to Northumberland, but it's through a separate scheme that sits outside of planning. So we've got a condition in our outline asking them to do that. So most of the biodiversity harm is offset by the acquisition of credits at Potland Burn. And there has been a significant cost for that, but that doesn't come to the county, it comes to the habitat operators at Potland Burn. So the 106 that we're looking at today, so that all of the biodiversity harm has been offset. There's a small part of it that is being delivered on site, and this is what we're securing today, is the small bit that's being delivered on site. The rest of it is being delivered at Potland Burn.
And can I just chip in there? And as this project goes forward, phase 2, 3, 4 and 5, those credits will be continued to be purchased by QTS.
Yeah, that's correct. They've bought the credits for the first phase.
Are you happy with the answer, Councillor Hill? You're never happy. You always want more, don't you?
I just think it's I know it's a really, if I bought your house off you for £200,000, I wouldn't say, I'm giving you 200,000, it's a flow of benefits. So that thing's all a bit weird, but I'm content with the answer on the specific habitat, section 106, whatever.
Thank you. Any more questions? Councillor Malcolm Robinson.
Thank you, Chair. Just two quick questions, Tamsin. What's the triangular water feature there? I presume that's a water feature, which is just to the north of the housing stock that's down there, isn't it?
That's not a water feature. So that is the area where there's that's not going to be developed. It's an area of open space. It's where it's of archaeological interest, that site. So it's the Ridge and Furrow site, I think it's referred to. So it's not going to be developed, that site.
So archaeological interest is
Yeah.
going to be blue from now on, is it? Right. Okay. The only other question is, it seems to be a highly secure site, or it's going to be highly secured. Can you give us some idea of the fence, the perimeter fence they're going to use?
So it's palisade fencing in the site.
Just 2 metre palisade fencing?
Is it 2 metres high? I can't remember how high that is actually. Do you know? It's probably normally about 2 metres.
1.8, yeah.
High.
It just seems highly secure
yes,
for that type of fencing, that's all. I would have thought it was a
Word
bit more
details
robust,
submitted.
rather than something you can nearly jump over.
So there's fencing that goes around the entire site, and then the data centres will have their own fencing around the site too. So there's like 2 layers of security, and then they have to get through the security gate as well. And then they're also proposing the hostile vehicle mitigation. So part of that is accounted for in terms of the layout, with like a chicane in the road layout, and they are going to be proposing boulders as well next to the fencing, where there might be like some areas which like a lorry or something can go through. So they are proposing the vehicle mitigation as well to cover it, so it will be secure.
I was just concerned about what it was going to look like in terms of the fencing, you know, because there's fencing and fencing. It could be, you know, really austere and, you know, really off-putting, but there is other fencing that I could use. But I was just wondering what sort of fencing they were going to use, that's all.
So, I mean, around the existing site, it's palisade fencing, so they are going to be repairing that. And I think that those details were dealt with and agreed at the outline. And then it is palisade fencing again that they're proposing around, just the most secure fencing.
And Councillor Robinson, can I just follow on from your question? Because at the site meeting, I did ask the question, because this site is being delivered in phases, and obviously the first phase, the 2 data centres will be operational while other phases are being constructed. You know, my question was that will these first 2 data centres be secure and separate from all that is going on in the construction world on phases 2, 3, 4 and 5? And of course, the answer was yes. You know, these two phases, this first phase, which is the construction of the two data centres, is secure in itself. So once these are built, that first phase, the two data centres, will be secure and operate well outside the construction site that's still going on for the rest of the phases. Councillor Carr, you had a question?
Thanks, Chair. It was just in relation to the security advisor's recommendations. For a site that's so secure, I'm quite surprised that they haven't put any aerial counterborne measures security advice on there, such as drones. For a site that's going to be really important in the future industry of AI, I would have thought that that was something that would have been recommended, unless it has and they've not considered it. Thank you.
No, I don't think
Not
so.
considered drones, no.
Any comment?
But, yeah, just
Elizabeth,
Chair, to
yeah.
reassure that, you know, we've consulted with all of those that will be interested in security interventions, and there's been no suggestion of drones. It's not to say that that guidance doesn't change in the future, and that may be introduced, but the security is, as Tamsin has discussed, with the fencing, cameras and so forth.
I'm fine with that, Chair. If it's something in future they bring back, I think that's highly recommended. Yeah. Thank you.
Point taken. Councillor Ball.
Thank you. So it's just a little bit of a continuation of that, because we're not used to seeing things with counter-terrorism security advisors. So is there any kind of minimum bar that we should be expecting from the application of this nature? Because obviously, once this is up and running, it is going to be having some quite significant global brands using that site. And it does have the potential. So I'm just wondering, not only for the site, but for the wider area as well, is there anything that we should be looking at the minimum bar? Because when I, like, call me naive, but reading this, a few bollards and some traffic calming measures doesn't seem to be adequate to counter terror. As I say, I'm no expert on that, but it does seem that if somebody wanted to get into the site, they could potentially cause havoc. And I'm just wondering for the wider area. And one second part of that, also if it's too secure, if something was to happen, the being able to get onto the site, how would that work? Because obviously it needs to be secure, but if something was to happen, then access points, is it going to be a case of the person on the security desk has to press a button, or how would that work, just for, again, that wider safety consideration?
Yeah, so really good question. So from the beginning, when we had early discussions with the applicant of this site coming forward, we were advising them to read the guidance from the counter-terrorism team, because we would be consulting them on the application. So the counter-terrorism team already issue and publish guidance about good design principles for bringing forward sites such as this. And we can see through the process that it has met what they would be expecting. So it has been given a lot of thought. And also, at a lower level, we also consult with the police, the architectural design team at the police too. And just to that point about, you know, if something does happen, there are emergency access to the north of the site for those types of eventualities. And again, the design cues that have been followed from the outset will ensure that emergency vehicles can arrive safely on site. So it hasn't been an afterthought, it's been designed into the scheme. Okay.
Thank you. Any more questions? Councillor Sim.
Two things. I don't know if I need to declare I'm a chair of governor at Camas Primary, just would have been mentioned a couple of times. I don't know if I need to declare that interest. But I'm interested in the sustainability of the transport into that area, because we're all about promoting sustainable transport, but yet there's no bus, like very, very few buses go through. It's going to be heavily reliant on by car. Is there anything going to be made available with public transport and getting access over to the train stations, because we've got train stations there, but there's no access to those via public transport. Is there any plans for to enhance that?
Chair, please can I just come in here?
Yes.
What did you say about your possible interest, please?
Chair, Governor,
Okay. So we do have, before the meeting, the chair did go through the interest where they do need to declare. So is that something that you've put on your register of interests?
Yes, yes.
So really, I don't think that you should be taking part in this meeting if you've already declared it. If it's a registrable interest.
I think it's a personal interest, though, is it?
It's a valuable.
Not a prejudicial.
So is it a...
It's not a personal relationship, I'm just a school governor.
Okay. And do you feel that you're coming into this committee?
Just with the mention and like in the slides and stuff comes by.
And the most important thing in terms of transparency is that you feel that you're coming into this meeting today without having predetermined this application, and you've come in with an open mind and you're willing to hear both sides. Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Well, as regards sort of transport links, Tamsin, we did deal with these when the outline was approved, didn't we?
Yes, that's right, yeah. I've got my original report here, so I could just read a paragraph from
This is not normally something we'd discuss at this stage, but because it's of interest to yourself and you weren't aware of what was in the original application, I think it's only right that Tamsin sort of tells you the things that we looked at.
I'm just going to read out a couple of things from my original outline report. So I'm just reading this straight out, okay? So in terms of encouraging sustainable transport, the transport assessment confirms that the site will include a shared pedestrian cycleway, shower and changing facilities and safe, secure, sheltered bike storage. It is proposed that on-site infrastructure and facilities to support cycling will be set at reserved matters stage. And the reserved matters has included that. Improvements to the existing pedestrian and cycle facilities along Brock Lane will be made to allow continuous active travel provision along this section from the main site entrance onto the C145 Brock Lane into East Sleekburn. The staff travel plan will be produced to encourage workers to car share to and to reduce the number of vehicles travelling to and from the site. And the applicant has also confirmed that they will provide a shuttle bus to, I think that's for the workers, to the nearest train station. Is that right? Yes. I'm just seeing what else I've got in my report too. So yeah, under that, I mean, under the original application, we consulted the Highway Authority who look at sustainable transport. We consulted Active Travel to and Public Health and the Countryside Rights of Way Officer and National Highways, so they've all been consulted, and they do look at the sustainable transport links. I'm just seeing what else I've got on here. That probably covers it, really. Yes. Yeah. Yes, I'm just reading out another paragraph. The applicant also submitted a response to submissions, a document which sets out how it has responded to the comments made. So in terms of Active Travel's comments, it sets out that the applicant is committed to cycle parking in line with their comments. The Highways plan now shows the applicant has amended the application to include details of the proposed pedestrian and cycling infrastructure along Brock Lane towards East Sleekburn, as well as a Toucan crossing. With regard to a shuttle bus, this is also committed within the updated framework travel plan, and the existing bus stops are suitable for accessing bus services, that the current location of the bus stops are appropriately located. The proposal includes upgrades to the existing bus stop access too.
Good.
So,
Yeah. So we've been pretty thorough, yeah. Is that all right, Councillor?
Yeah, just obviously in the past when there's been applications for housing, I feel like that's always been overlooked. Build houses and things, and it's not something that's taken into consideration. It seems to be an afterthought. I know that there is issues in that area with services for public transport. So thanks to say that it's...
Good. Was that all your question?
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Carr.
There was a stat you mentioned, Chair, just wondering if there was any indication as to what that might be.
Well, we've all been asking ourselves this question, and I'm sure it will come back under reserved matters. We'll all like to say, you know, I did put my own comment into the ring, which horrified the officers. It was a sort of political lady, but you know, we will all have a say on hopefully what that statue will be. But yeah, it does beg the question.
I assume it could just be the company logo potentially, or I thought American Eagle maybe. I'm just curious.
Well, indeed, but we'll wait and see. Might be something more interesting or more local. We'll wait. But thanks for the question. Any more questions? Councillor Swin.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, just for clarification, because it just depends how you read this, hostile vehicle mitigation measures. You can read that 2 or even 3 different ways. Is it hostile vehicles or is it hostile measures, or do you not know?
Hostile vehicle mitigation. What about it? Yeah.
Hostile vehicle
I think you read
mitigation.
it as a hostile vehicle and what will be the mitigation measures.
As opposed to hostile measures against a vehicle.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Okay, okay. Anyway, the main questions I want to ask. There's presumably some landscaping, and part of that will presumably be to kind of mitigate the actual physical bulk of the buildings themselves. My question is there any guidance being suggested on terms of tree species that will be planted? Because obviously some trees will grow to a certain height, and other trees will grow to a much larger height, and obviously these are very tall buildings. I wonder whether there's any kind of indication of what will be planted and whether it will be eventually expected to screen the buildings or even partially screen the buildings or whatever.
I mean, normally it's native trees that we do ask for. So I think the details of the trees have been approved by ecology so far, but I have asked for further landscaping details to be submitted for the rest of the site where landscaping isn't shown. Yes, I do understand what you're talking about. Yes.
Yeah, we don't go into the detail of the types of trees, but as Tamsin says, normally we say native species, and they will be appropriate to where they're located. So on the boundaries, we would be looking for native species that are going to grow higher, and maybe on some of those softer landscaping areas, they're going to be more ornamental, and also trees that will attract greater biodiversity as well.
Okay, thank you. Just a big difference between plantings like rowans and plants like black poplar or oak in the long term. The other question that I wasn't quite sure, because I've read the report, and it seems to be that in terms of cycle links, I mean, it's great that there's good cycling facilities inside the site, cycle racks, showers, all the rest of it. That's great. Attracts people to use a bike to get to work. But there's some discussion about where the entrance, everybody will have to come in by the south entrance. Is that the case? It's a shame you can't get in at the north side. If you live at the north side, you're going to have to do a big loop around the site. I don't know whether there's anything, if that is that the case, there's anything we can do about it.
There's cycle access from coming in from the north as well. So there's pedestrian and cycle access at the north, and also off Brock Lane.
Thank you. That's great. That's good clarification. Just because obviously it will put people off if they have to go all the way around to get
exactly.
in. Yeah. Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Any more questions, ladies and gentlemen? No more questions? Would someone like to move a proposal? Councillor Malcolm Robinson.
Happy to move proposal on it, Chair, including the conditions outlined by Tamsin just now.
Thank you. Is that seconded? Seconded by Councillor Gordon Stewart. Anybody like to speak to the application? Yes, just before you do, I'm just going to say a tiny word myself because you would close the debate. I feel that we've covered a lot of the issues today. We've had some intelligent questions, and you know that's really what we need on this sort of application. We don't want to leave any stone unturned, and I feel the questioning and the answers has been excellent this afternoon. You know, this is a huge application. These are very big buildings, and you know I understand where Councillor Swinbank's coming from when he says, you know, will these be tall growing trees? But you know, in effect, you can't really disguise a building that's going to be sort of 34 metres high. Yes, you can soften it from the edges, but you know, we can't grow very big trees close to these buildings. But I particularly like the fact that we went on site today and actually saw the plans of the buildings and tried to imagine how they're going to fit into the landscape. But at the same time, you know, I just want to thank our officers because I think they've done a really good job in delving into the detail in this. And, you know, also very, very important and good to see how the site is being delivered. You know, it's one thing to give permission to something, but it's another thing to sort of go back after a little while and see how it's all being delivered out. And I think it's being delivered out quite well. But no, I fully support this Reserve Matters application this afternoon and look forward to phases 2, 3, 4 and 5 coming back to us as well. Councillor Robinson.
Thank you, Chair. Just to wind up, the site, for anybody that didn't know, has been an industrial site for decades. It's been a scar on the shoreline of Bedlingtonshire for as long as I know. This is a 21st century business. This is not the old heavy industry that was there. It's going to be a damn sight better, and I'm just keeping my comments to the landscaping, the way it'll look. And it's going to be a damn sight better than what's ever been there in the past. And that's exactly why I proposed it.
Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen of the committee, the recommendation has been proposed and seconded. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you very much indeed, committee. All that's left on the agenda this afternoon is the Section 106 update, pages 53 to 56, which is there for your information. As Chair, I have no urgent business to bring to you this afternoon, and thank you for coming today. Thank you for coming on the site visit, and I all hope that you have a very happy Christmas. Thank you.